So a lot of people come into manifestation work and they think that all of this is about control, control, control. They interpret all of the techniques, all of the things we talk about. They interpret everything as, oh, this is about me controlling reality because I am God. I am the only God. I am responsible for controlling everything. So how do I make sure I perfectly control everything? But that approach to manifestation is just saturated in suffering, because when you feel like you have to hold it all together and you need to really be in control of your reality and you really need to always be specific and always be knowing exactly what's going to happen and you always need to have certainty about what's happening for you, when you're in that kind of a state, you can just tell by the way it feels when I'm talking about it. It feels like tension. It feels like, oh my God, I got to hold it together. It feels like honestly being out of control, because this is one of the paradoxes. The more that we seek to control reality, the more we're actually feeling quite out of control in our realities. So I want to address this today in a way that really lands on you, hopefully in a new way. But before we get into all of that, I will introduce myself to any of you who do not know me yet. My name is Genevieve. I'm a manifestation coach. And on this channel, I mainly talk about law of assumption type things, but I also talk about a lot of other things that support healthy manifesting and law of assumption work. So if you resonate with my style of coaching, if you like the way that I talk about things and explain things, there's lots of different ways that you can work with me. I've got courses down below at the moment. I have 3 that are available, so you can do those. You can start them right now, and they're very in-depth. The biggest feedback I get about the courses is they're very different and a lot more effective in changing the state than any other course that people have done when it comes to manifesting. So that is definitely something you can do if you want to. You can, of course, also do a one-on-one session with me if you feel drawn to that, if you need to talk to me about your specific life and your circumstances and you just need some guidance on that, then I'm here for that as well. So all of the different links are down in the description below. But now let's get deeper into this topic of dealing with uncertainty and letting go of this like anxious need for control and accidentally using manifestation to cause you to feel like you really need to be in control and you can't handle not being in control. So to start, I just want to bring back some like healthy perspective and logic, I guess, to manifestation, because there's some people who learn about law of assumption in particular, and they hear this little quip that's, I'm the creator of my reality, and then they do what I said before. They get super like controlling and super like, everything that happens to me, I create it, and everyone is me pushed out, and they take these little quips that we say to a very far extreme, and they might temporarily, egoically feel good in those extremes for a bit, but as I've always seen it happen, those people tend to crash and burn. They go through a lot of suffering until they finally, it's like their suffering beats them into submission and they finally see things through a little bit of a lighter lens. So what I mean by bringing back logic and just healthy perspective is think logically about your day. Just think about right now how every morning you wake up and you honestly don't really know exactly what is going to happen that day. You might have a pretty good idea of what's supposed to happen that day based off of things that are on your calendar, based off of the plans that you have already made for that day. But in terms of like the real like 3D events that are going to happen, and even the real internal situations that might come up within you, your day ahead of you is like a little bit of a fun mystery that you have not experienced yet, and you have to be honest with yourself and say you genuinely don't really know how it's gonna go. This is a good thing. Imagine how boring it would be and how kind of like useless it would even be to be a human if you really did have perfect control of your reality, where every single morning you woke up and you knew exactly every little event that was going to happen, and you knew exactly how you would feel that entire time for the day and all of the thoughts you were going to have that whole day. Imagine how just like empty that would feel to be like, I'm in so much perfect control of my reality. Everything is exactly to a T, exactly how I planned it, and I just know it all, I just predict it all, and everything is exactly how I thought it would happen. I don't know about you, but I would hate that. I would feel like, again, what is the point of living if there isn't this kind of surrendered, exciting mystery to waking up each day and just kind of embracing the mystery of like, I don't really know fully what's going to happen today. I have some idea again about, I got stuff on my calendar, I got stuff going on, but really I don't know how certain conversations are going to go, or who I'm going to run into at the grocery store, or how I'm going to feel when I discover a new show on some streaming service that I'm excited to watch. Like, there are all these gifts and mysteries that are constantly being given to you throughout the day. And it's good that you don't have total certainty of that. It's good that you don't have total control over that, because you would hate it if you had absolute control over every little thing that always happened. A healthy, conscious manifestor embraces mystery. A healthy, conscious manifestor is truly surrendered. In fact, something I tell my clients sometimes is surrender is honestly like 80% of manifesting, like true, healthy, like trusting surrender. Because what surrender is really based on is trust. Do you genuinely trust yourself, and do you genuinely trust God and your reality? Because if you do not trust, that is when you are in that anxious state of control, that anxious state of constantly saying things like, oh no, I don't see that. That's not a part of my reality. If you are constantly going throughout your day being like so fearfully reactive of like, no, I don't see that. No, I don't see that. I only create my reality and I don't see that. I only assume that everything's working out for me. And you're like totally in like fearful, controlling avoidance of like anything that's honestly benign. Reality, as I say a lot, is benign. It's meaningless until you perceive it and give it a meaning. So if you are going through your reality being very like anxiously gripping and fixed on your like very specific preferences, and if you even see a hint of something that suggests that you're not getting your preference, you go, oh, that's not my reality, and you kind of like freak out. You are in so much lack of trust. You do not trust. You're operating from fear, because honestly, the opposite of trust is just being in a fear state. So this is what I mean by trust that then leads to healthy surrender is like truly 80% of all manifesting. The other 20% of manifesting is, yes, being specific about what you intend for yourself, but it's not really just what you intend for yourself. It's who do you genuinely think you are. This is also something that those of you who know me know I talk about a lot, is that manifestations are a result of your real identity. Like, are you identifying genuinely as someone who knows that you are loved? Are you identifying genuinely on someone who knows that money comes to you really easily, or someone who knows that they are really healthy, or someone who knows that the person you love also loves you? Are you genuinely accepting that? Because acceptance of the wish fulfilled is also about surrender. A lot of you are even like not surrendering to the wish fulfilled because you keep thinking you need to again control it. Like, if you don't really see it in the 3D yet, that must mean it's not done, and therefore you need to keep saying affirmations or whatever. Although I'll pause there and say affirmations are still totally fine to say. I don't want to harp on affirmations because I kind of love them, but what I mean here is, who is the you that is saying the affirmations? Is it the you that's saying the affirmations that is like anxiously trying to make it happen because you think it's not happening yet? Or is it the you that's saying the affirmations, the one who knows, oh yeah, when I say my affirmations, I'm simply saying it as a reminder that I already have it. It's just me remembering, oh yeah, I already have this. So that's two very different states when it comes to affirming. So that's important to keep in mind. It's not about demonizing techniques as if you should stop doing techniques and just totally surrender. I actually don't believe in that approach either, which I think a lot of coaches kind of say that like, oh, just stop doing techniques because if you already had it, you wouldn't be doing techniques. That's like totally BS. Because even when you're fully in the reality, like let's just say hypothetically that you really are fully in the new preferred reality that you're manifesting, where you've got the thing that you want, even when you're in that reality physically, you are still thinking thoughts like, wow, my SP is so in love with me, or wow, everything's always working out for me. That's all affirmations or really any technique is trying to do for you. It's trying to get you into that state of like, oh yeah, I already have it. It's like a reflective state of I'm reacting right now as if I already have this. So you would be doing that in the wish fulfilled. So I just have to say that because I think some coaches misunderstand that. From what, again, I don't really know. I don't really hear them myself, but like I hear from other people that like it's like demonizing techniques as if you should never do affirming or anything if you were really in the wish fulfilled. Not true. If you're in the wish fulfilled, you're still thinking those thoughts. You're still doing those scripting even, or affirming. You're doing things that are like, yeah, I'm saturating in this. So anyway, that was a side note. But back to what I was saying before, that is like 20% of manifesting. Like the thing I just said there about, doing your practice, doing the techniques, being specific about the things that it is you want, the identity that you are having in the having of those things, that you're not just wanting those things anymore, you're actually allowing yourself to identify as having those things. That's like 20% of the work, the 80%, and that's the real work for most of you. The real work isn't the techniques, because that's easy. It's easy to pick an affirmation or pick a meditation or do a visualization. It's easy to do that. But what is hard for a lot of you is dealing with uncertainty and dealing with just life. It's like a lot of you get into manifesting, as I said, and you like have an even harder time dealing with life because you think you're supposed to be perfectly controlling it. And no, it's not what's supposed to be happening. So what does surrender really look like for you? Like, how do you do that? Because it's not really as simple as like, oh, I'll just do the surrender technique. Surrender is an active way of living. Living in that sense of just surrendered. Detachment is another word I could kind of describe as surrender, but surrender is a slightly different flavor than detachment. Surrender implies that you're not fighting anyone or anything anymore. Surrender implies that you are going throughout the day of your life and you are in non-resistance. You are in acceptance. You are not trying to fight anything off. You're not reacting to things in a negative way as if they mean something about you. You are just going through your day and things come up and you just kind of handle them in whatever way they need to be handled. And you're not letting things change your concept of yourself. And if something does bother you, you just kind of let it go. Like, honestly, just ask yourself, like if something starts bothering you, like, and it could be so many different things, just ask yourself, could I just let this go right now? Could I just surrender this? Because Big God, Big G God has totally got this. Because this is another thing that I feel like people totally misunderstand when they come into manifesting, especially law of assumption. Again, because I hear that, you are the God of your reality, you create your reality. And it's like people totally forget that we are the God of our reality, but there's also this bigger God that has this perspective that we do not have. And I'm not saying this because I want to imply that there's a bigger God that has a separate will than you, because another thing that comes up a lot with me and my clients is this idea that's gotten in a lot of people's heads that there's God's will and then your will, and maybe God's will is like different than your will. That is totally not true. God's will is whatever you desire that is truly the best for you. Like, your desires were given to you by God, and it is through you stepping into the highest version of yourself and accepting and surrendering to that higher version of yourself that you're able to manifest those desires given to you by God. But God is not like, Big G God is not like separate from you being like, oh, look at her, she's trying to manifest a boyfriend, but my will for her is that she become a cat lady. Like, that's not what Big G God is ever doing to any of you. It's not like God is a totally separate plan and you're just like not on board with it. And the true meaning at the foundation of law of assumption is exactly that. Like when Neville Goddard says that you are the creator of your reality, you are the God of your reality, he is simply implying that there's no separate God that has some special secret will that you've got to figure out that's different than your will. What he's saying is what you really desire, that was given to you by God, and you are meant to step into the having of it so that you can fully experience it. So anyway, so that's just to say there is a bigger Big G God, and how you know there is because you have this human perception that can only perceive a limited amount of things at one time. You can only see, like right now, I can only see what I can see right now, and it is you in this camera. Big G God can see the entire universe happening all at once. And Big G God is also timeless, and that there's no time in the realm of like true Big G God. Right now, my human perspective is stuck in time, it's stuck in this brain, it's stuck in this body. I have a limited perception of reality based on my one singular human perception. Big G God does not have that. Big G God can see everything, everywhere, all at once in this like crazy, unfathomable to me, timeless fashion, which is so cool. So Big G God is still what you are surrendering to in terms of trusting, again, going back to trust, that things are going to work out based off of the ways that things need to come together that you just can't even see right now. This is also one of those things I love about manifesting. It's something I've experienced so often, and I see it in my clients all the time too, is that things tend to come together, like your manifestations tend to come together in ways that are like ways you could not have even imagined. Like the control version of us that thinks like, oh yeah, the logical way that this is gonna happen is, yeah, my person's just gonna text me and ask me on a date, and then obviously that's what's gonna happen. But sometimes there's a bigger thing going on that you don't even realize, like, oh, actually this is gonna happen, it's gonna lead you to this thing, and then this thing's gonna lead you to this thing, and then this is, like you just can't even see the mystery of how your desire is truly, the path of least resistance to have that desire unfold. And the more that you trust that, and the more you just be like, yep, I don't need to even know how it unfolds. I embrace the mystery. I surrender to all of it. Because often, this is a thing I've seen in my own life, sometimes seemingly negative events do happen along the bridge of events. And so for those of you who don't know, there's something called the bridge of incidents or the bridge of events, where it's like there's all these little things that can happen in reality, but also happen within you that lead you to your kind of final manifestation. And a really common thing is that along that bridge, seemingly negative things happen, but they're not really negative. Often like a negative thing happens because something needs to be cleared away, because you can no longer be clinging to that old person, or you can't be doing that unhealthy thing that you were doing. You like something needs to kind of implode to separate you from certain things in order for other good things to come in. So it's extremely common that people, they start manifesting and seemingly kind of bad things start happening on the bridge of events. But if you start to lose it, if you start to get back into your fear, ego, control mind and think like, oh, I must be manifesting wrong because this is happening and this is happening, and you just totally lose your state and you just spiral back into just fear and control, all that stuff, then you're slowing everything down. You are keeping everything in a stalemate. You are resisting. This is why non-resistance is so key. Non-resistance is pretty much synonymous with surrender that I'm talking about here, where you're just going to accept whatever's happening. You are just going to be neutral to it. You are just going to trust it. You are just going to keep going along with it. You are not going to fixate on anything as if it's like, oh, that's a problem that I have to fix, or oh, this shouldn't have happened, so that means that I'm doing something wrong. That is your weird control mind that can't handle uncertainty, that can't handle a mystery, that is trying to interrupt things. So I hope this really makes sense, because this is really, really huge. Surrender is something you do throughout your entire day. It's not a technique. It is a constant state of, I trust myself and I trust God and the world so much that I'm just constantly letting go. I'm just like a duck allowing the water to roll off my back. I am so trusting of my direction. I'm so trusting of my life that I don't need to control. I can just go through, and whatever happens, happens. Even if something temporarily weird happens or temporarily confusing happens, I know that everything is truly working for my good, and I'm never going to take a circumstance or take something confusing in my reality and make it stall me or make me mistrust myself. I'm never going to allow that to happen. Like, that is what I want you to be doing, and a lot of you aren't doing. And instead, like I've said, a lot of you are like in that control thing where you're so anxiously gripping your manifestation and trying to like muddle through life as if you think that like life is a thing that you need to fight off, as if you can't trust life, that you're like supposed to be controlling every little thing, and that's just not true. I know for myself, and I also know for my clients, that when you really do feel that sense of just like surrender, that sense of like letting go of like, oh my God, I don't need to cling to anything anymore. I can just live my life. I just finally, I'm in such a good self-concept where I have so much self-trust, self-love, and self-value that's so just like self-sustaining. I just can just go along with my life. I don't need to be worrying about my manifestations. I don't need to be worrying if I'm doing something right. I can just truly surrender. When you really get to that state, it is such a sigh of relief, because I know it does not feel good to be trying to manifest from that control state where you're trying to make something happen and you're wondering why it's not happening yet, and you're like kind of freaking out about it and trying to find the next perfect technique that you think is going to make it happen. It's like completely lack of surrender in that. True healthy self-concept involves you trusting yourself so much that you to use that corny cliche term, but you really do feel kind of like back on the pedestal. Although it's not even really a pedestal, it's just that you feel good about yourself. Like no matter what, you really do feel like no matter what happens, I'm gonna be okay because I'm so surrendered. I trust myself so much. And when you're so surrendered, it's also easier just to accept that of course your desires are going to happen, or of course good things are going to happen to you, because you just like, it's just easy to accept that. But it's not easy to accept your desires, of the having of your desires, I should say, when you feel like, oh, I've got to do so much to get it, and there's so far away, and there's so many circumstances, and I'm just a slave to the 3D reality. Like, of course it feels difficult to accept you already have it. So surrender is what I really want everyone to sink even deeper into. That just that feeling of like relief. I'm just like, you know what? Whatever happens, I'm just going to embrace the mystery of each day. I don't have perfect control over what's going to happen every day. I really don't. And that's a freaking good thing that I don't, because that would be boring. I would off myself. No, not really. That's terrible to say, but I would not enjoy that very much. So let me know if you have any questions about this, about surrender, about detachment, about trust, because again, the key to real surrender is just really sinking into trust that no matter what happens, you're going to handle it, and that no matter what happens, it's not really a threat to you. It's not really a threat to your manifestation. And so you're stepping into this neutrality where you're just kind of rolling through reality, not reacting to it, not even needing to say the whole like, oh, this isn't my reality thing, because even that is a little bit of a reaction depending on how you're saying it. So let me know your thoughts and any other questions you have, and I will see you guys in my next video. All right, bye.